Hello guys, welcome once again. In the last video I've shown you how to make a registration page using your ASP.NET website application. So when you till now when you run the program in the browser, it shows a registration form, and if user fills some of the data and submits it, it shows some warning if he hasn't entered the valid values. Now if when the user registers some data, it should be saved somewhere in your database. So in this video I will show you how to make a database for your registered data or for the new user data. So let's get started. First of all, what I will do is I will go to my project, I will right click it, and I will say add new item, and in here I will search for a database. This will be our SQL server database, and we can change the name of the database also. So for example, we name our database as registration database. Okay, and I click add, and it will show a message that you are attempting to add a database, and just click yes here, and your data will base will be added to your project. You can see here, if the database is not added, or if you haven't if you can't see your database instantaneously, just right click and refresh the folder, and in some moments you will be able to see this registration.mdf file. Now what you need to do is, if you can't see a server explorer in here, you can go view and search for server explorer and click it and just pin it here, and in here you will be able to see your database. Our database name is registration.mdf. okay, now I will add a table to my database. So I will go here on the table, right click, and I will say add new table, and it will present a form here in which we can provide the column name and we can provide the data type. So first is the ID. So I want to give the ID of the registration, and then I will say the user name, for example, because this is our registration form. We have username, email, password, and country. Okay, four field we have. So first is username, email second, and the third is password, and the fourth is country. And because our ID will be an integer, so I will choose the data type as int here. Username will be a string type, so you can choose nchar and provide the length of the string you want to provide for the username. So for example, I want to provide 20 character. Email would be little bit bigger, so I will provide 50 characters here. Password, for password I will provide 20, and the country is 15 enough, I think. Okay, now when you are done with your columns, then you just need to click this save table, and it will present you a dialog where you need to provide the name of your table. So I will say user data table. Okay, so this is my user data table. because whenever new user registers, his data is saved in this table, and I will click OK. Now my database is already made. Now what I need to do is I need to be able to see my database somewhere in the web page. So what I will do is I will make a new page. I will go to my project, right click, add new item, and I will add a new web form from here, and I will name it as manager, for example, so that only manager would be able to see it. And I say add, and it has made a empty form for us, and when I go to design, it just have the body. I will go to the toolbox here, and I will go in this data tab, and I will drag and drop a grid view, because we would be able to see the database values in our tables. This grid view would help us to see our database. So drag and drop this grid view. You can also resize your grid view from here, or this body from here. And the next thing you need to have is this SQL data source. This will help you to attach your database with this grid view or table. Now what you need to do is, first is just click this little arrow button in this SQL data source. You can see here the name or ID of your SQL data source is, you see here, SQL data source 1, right? You can change the ID of this data source also. For example, SQL data source registration. Okay, so we know that this is the data source for the registration. Now just click this arrow button, and I will say configure data source, and I will choose my data source. Our data source is registration.mdf, which we have already created, and I will say next. And here connection string, you can say registration connection string. So this will save it as registration connection string, so you know that this is a string for registration. Click next, and in here you can choose whatever data you want to see in the database. I will say, or I will leave it as default, which is star, and it implies that I want to see all the data, or you can individually select whatever data you want to see. I will just leave as this default as star, and I will click next, and I will test my query if my database is connected or not. So if you see this kind of table titles which you have already created, ID, username, email, password and country, then you are sure that your database is connected. Then click finish. Now this data source is connected with our database, which is our registration database. Now we need to connect this data source to this table. So what we will do is just select your table and click this arrow button from here, and just say choose data source, and we only have one data source, which is SQL data source registration. Just select it, and you will be able to see all the data columns are present here: ID, username, email, password and country. Now you know that you are connected to the database, and you will be able to see your data in this table. You can also change the property of this tables, for example enable paging, enable sorting, or enable selection. And also you can change the way your table must look. So there are some designs you can select from here. So just go to auto format and you can choose your design just by clicking here. So let me see which design I want to show. For example, I want this rainy day design, and I will say apply, and I will say click OK. Now I can see the design here. Now you just need to have some data to be able to see your table on the web page. So once again we will go to our solution explorer and we will go to our database, which is registration MDF, and I will go to the tables here, right click, and I will say, or first of all just click this table, which is our user table which we have created, and just click, right click it and say show table data, and we will add here some sample data. So for example, I'm adding here ID1 and username is programming knowledge, and email ID is abc at the rate gmail.com, and the password is 12345, and the country is Germany. Okay, and just click this save all button. Now your database will be saved. But if you see this red information or warnings here, just click the next line or this next row and then save your data. Now once you have some data inside this table, you can see this data on the web page, which is our manager web page. So go to the project once again, right click your manager.aspx where we have our table, this table, and right click it and say view in browser, and it will open this data table inside the manager.aspx, and you have the same data, programming knowledge, abc at the rate gmail.com, password, and the country. Okay, now this is designing your database. In the next video I will show you how to bind your database with your registration form, which is ASPX registration form. So stay tuned and please rate, comment and subscribe, and bye for now.